Welcome back to Build and Tinker. This week we're going to be building an EDH deck around Prosper Tome-Bound. So Prosper was a Adventures in Forgotten Realms commander, one of the Rakdos commanders. So 2 and a black-red for a legendary creature Tiefling Warlock. Death Touch with Mystic Arcanum. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Then he has Pact Boon. Whenever you play a card from Exile, create a treasure token. So the whole point of this deck that I've built is kind of twofold. One, you need treasures. So you want to get lots of treasures, and luckily he will generate some for you, as well as you want to play cards from Exile. So what we're going to see is a combination of cards that let you play your cards from Exile, your opponent's cards from Exile, as well as getting some treasure generation and kind of balancing out all three of those. So, as always, I have our cards laid out here, and we're going to kind of go left to right, and hopefully I won't forget any this time. So starting with starting with this pile, these are really your support cards. I really have these in here just as kind of some support pieces, really no benefit here other than that. They don't really synergize with the commander too much, but you can see we have a couple of protection spells here, Deflecting Swat, Tybald's Trickery, kind of just, again, protect yourself a little bit, some card draw. And Unexpected Windfall is nice because not only does it give you card draw, but it also creates you 2 treasure tokens. And you really don't care too much about cards in hand because you want to be casting cards from Exile. So it's okay if you discard some cards. And then 2 other pieces here to kind of let you cycle through your deck. Experimental Frenzy. This is going to be very good because if you don't have cards in hand, again, you don't really care. You're just going to be trying to get cards from Exile, as well as the fact that because you can look at the top card of your library, you can kind of determine, okay, do I want to play a card that's going to pull some stuff off my library into Exile, or kind of where do I want to put everything? And that's going to be kind of up to you as you kind of play the game. And then, of course, Imperial Recruiter is just going to be good to get out certain creatures, and we'll talk about that. And, of course, Ragavan is in here. Hopefully things aren't too blurry. I'm trying a bit of a different setup today. So I'm trying to get this thing perfected, but the autofocus can kind of mess stuff up sometimes, as well as trying to get the perfect lighting. So that's there. And then, of course, we have our mana rocks. These are really there just for a basic ramp. Really nothing more, right? So you have Talisman of Indulgence, Rakdos Signet, Commander's Field, Soaring, Arcane Signet, and Felwar Stone. Felwar Stone is very good in this deck because it's anything your opponents can produce, and if you're going to be playing cards off of their library, you're going to want to be able to produce mana of their color. So pretty basic there, nothing extravagant in those 2 piles. But now we're going to start getting into some of the other kind of really cool synergies we have here. So I kind of have 3 different piles here. 4 piles. Treasure generation, playing cards off your library, playing cards off of, your opponent's library, your library, and then kind of cards that just have some Exile synergies to start with. So we'll go to that set first. So what you'll see is we have a number of cards here that kind of either have Cascade, Rebound, or Suspend. And the reason we have these in here is for that reason, is because you cast those from Exile, right? So Suspend, you can put that in Exile with a countdown timer and then get those off. So it's really useful for Rift Bolt. And then Rousing Refrain is nice because it keeps putting itself back into Suspend. But every time you cast that, if your commander's on board, you're going to get a treasure. So these are kind of good for delayed removal. Consuming Vapors and Faithless Salvaging, both with Rebound. Rebound's going to be very good because as you cast it, it goes back on top, it goes into Exile, and then you can cast it for your next upkeep without paying its mana cost. Again, that's from Exile, so you get a treasure token. We have a couple of Cascade cards. This one is just good, Venomous Blast, because for 5 mana, add 5 mana, 4 damage to a creature, not great, but then you can Cascade something, and what you Cascade will be it from Exile. And then, of course, Wild Magic Sorcerer is very good because the first spell you cast from Exile each turn has Cascade, and we're going to be wanting to do that a lot, and this actually came in the set along with a few of these other ones. And then I added a couple of Foretell cards. Demon Bolt's pretty good. Just kind of set it aside for 2 mana, and then when you're ready, you cast it for 1, wait till your commander's on board, and bam, you get a treasure token. Poison the Cup, same kind of deal, destroy target creature, and then Rise of the Dreadmorn. This really just lets you build up a bit of a board, because that is going to be one of the weaknesses here, is not having much of a board state. So these are all cards that you're going to play once and then get them into Exile and then play them again. So that's going to be a big piece of the value that you're going to want to get out of this. Moving on to the second pile here. This is playing cards out of your library into Exile. And there's a lot here. I'm not going to go through all of these, but basically all of these cards here, they effectively get your deck, your cards into Exile, and then let you cast them. A lot of them, you have to play them that turn, so you got to time it right with the right amount of mana. Again, treasure generation is going to be critical to that. Other ones, you can wait till the next turn to cast it. So some notable callouts here. So Chandra Fire Artisan, this is just a good one because you get the top card of your library, you may play it this turn. So you exile it, and then if you can ever ultimate her, you're going to exile the top 7 cards of your library to play this turn and deal 7 damage to something. So that's going to be pretty good removal. Give you some good options here. Looking at some other ones, Jessica's Wheel, if you have your commander, which you really want to do, you're going to get double value out of this. You're going to get your mana value when you add a red for each card in target opponent's library, as well as you get to exile the top 3 cards of your library and play them. So you can get quite a bit of mana and then play those cards immediately. And then if you kind of keep coming out here, Tectonic Giant's going to be good. Every time they attack, you get to exile 2 cards of your library, choose one, and until the next turn you can play it. So that's very useful. And if you don't think you want to do that, you just deal some damage. Outpost, he's going to do it every time. Flame Skull, a couple of sorceries on here. So you can kind of see what we have here. Not a whole lot of really kind of exciting stuff. It's just really ways to play something, get something into Exile to play it next turn. Spine Rock Knoll is going to be very good because if an opponent's dealt 7 or more damage this turn, you may play it without paying its mana cost. So hopefully you can get some damage out there with some of these other cards that we're talking about here. So you can kind of see it. Valakut Exploration is going to be good. Get that at the every time you play a land, get something into Exile. So you can kind of see. We'll have all the cards in the deck list as always. Keep going here. This is where it gets kind of fun. We'll save that for the last. That's kind of fun. We'll talk about treasure generation. So it's roughly evenly spread between getting cards into Exile, getting your opponent's card into Exile, and generating treasures. And that's really where we want to be, is somewhere in that strong balance there. So some callouts here, obviously Goldspan Dragon, you're going to get a treasure token every time he attacks, and your treasures tap for double. That's just, straight up really, really good. Some pricey cards here. Dockside is in here somewhere. There it is. Dockside Extortionist, Brass's Bounty. These are your basic cards that are going to generate treasures. Stormkiln Artist, you're going to be casting a lot of things, whether it's from Exile or not. Get an instant sorcery spell, get a treasure. Gadrick, treasure every end step, very good. Academy Manufacturer, get a treasure. You're going to get a treasure, a clue, and a food. Do you really need that? I don't really know. I don't know how valuable that is yet. I haven't gotten that on board yet, but anytime you can get more artifacts, get some card draw, get some life gain, that's just going to be value. And you can kind of see a few other ones here. Magda, Zorn, get double treasure tokens. Actually, not double. You kind of add 1, but you're going to be getting 2. Shiny Impetus is really good because you enchant one of your opponent's creatures. It gets +2/+2 goaded, and whenever it attacks, it creates a treasure token. What's actually really nice about this is it doesn't have to be an opponent's creature. You can enchant your own creature. It's not going to attack you because you don't attack yourself. You're going to get a buff and get a treasure token whenever it attacks. And then a couple of other ones here. I'll just finish going through. We talked about Magna a bit. Grim Hireling is very good. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to your player, you create 2 treasure tokens. If you can get this on any of these other creatures, that's just going to be some value to kind of keep getting treasure tokens generated. We have a couple of random cards here. So Reckless Endeavor and Bucknard's Ever Full Purse. Both of these roll dice, and you're going to get treasure tokens equal to the number of dice you roll, or to the value of the dice, right? So you can kind of get a lot of treasures out of this, or just a few, but kind of some randomness is fun. Kalain, Reclusive Painter, I stuck in here because she generates a treasure when they come on board, but then also when you spend that treasure to cast other cards, either creatures, they're going to come in with a +1/+1. And remember, that's anything you control. So whether it's something you cast from Exile, it's something you cast from your hand, or something you cast from an opponent's Exile, they're going to come in and be stronger for each mana from a treasure. So some strong value there. And this is actually a very high win con in this deck, Hellkite Tyrant. So it's a 4 red for a dragon, Flying Trample. When Hellkite Tyrant deals combat damage to your player, you get control of artifacts they control. Beginning of your upkeep, you control 20 more artifacts, you win the game. If you can time this out with a number of treasures on board, you can just kind of win, right? On your next upkeep, if you can cheat it out, even better. So a number of good ways there to get lots of treasures, and they kind of take advantage of that treasure generation your commander is going to be doing anyways. Now, the last one, this is really fun. I do want to kind of go through these one at a time because they all trigger off a kind of different ability. So Chaos Wand, 4 and tap it. So, sorry, 3 mana artifact, 4, tap it. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile instant sorcery, and you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So you need removal. You just pay 4, you tap it, and get somebody else's removal. Get their treasure generation, get their token generation, get their card draw, get kind of whatever you want to from that. But in addition to this, with your commander on board, you get a treasure. So that's fun. Hedonish Trove is very good. You get to cast and play anything from target opponent's graveyard. So this is really good late in the game. You can exile an entire graveyard, get all of those cards here, and then you get lands from them. You get non-land cards. You only cast 1 each turn. Not really too big of a deal because you'll have other ways to get cards from exile. But you're basically playing with their entire graveyard, which can be really good in some decks, especially with EDH. Dream Pillager. So when this deals combat damage to a player, exile that many cards from the top of their library until end of turn. You may cast spells among that. You're going to need the treasure for this. A little bit slow, but that's okay. Draugr Necromancer from Call Time. This one's very good. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you exile it with an ice counter, and you may cast spells from among cards in exile your opponent's own with ice counters on them, and then spend any mana from snow sources as though it were mana of any color. So what's nice is the treasures will do that for you, but I also have a number of snow lands in here as well, only to kind of cover for that scenario there. But this will let you, as you kill stuff, as things kind of fall off the board, and it's anytime an opponent's creature dies. So whether you kill it or somebody else does, or they sack it, whatever happens, you can kind of steal it, and then you can play it later. You find some prisoners. This is a nice kind of dual, destroy target artifact, or you exile the top 3 cards from an opponent's library, you pick one, and until the end of your next turn, you can play it, and you can spend mana of any color to cast it. So you get to kind of pick what you want to cast out of there. So that's pretty good. Favored Suspicion. Each opponent exiles top card from the library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of those without paying the mana cost, and it has Rebound. You can do it once, put it aside, do it again the next time, get that treasure from casting it from Rebound, and then cast the cards again from there. And, oh, look, we got Velky here. Velky's really good here on either side because when he enters on his side, each opponent reveals their hand, you exile a creature card, and then he becomes that. So you get kind of some cards in exile, but obviously when Velky flips, he becomes Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. So this lets you play cards whenever you exile him with Tybalt. So what's nice about that is you get that emblem the minute he's on the board, and you're just upticking him and getting top of libraries. You're downticking him and actually kind of just stealing stuff. Or if you ultimate him, which probably won't happen, you get everything in the graveyard. Breaches, whenever one or more pirates deals combat damage, you get to exile the top card of that opponent's library, and you may play it and spend any color. Dire Fleet Daredevil, a pirate. So you have kind of a pirate theme going on. Very, very subtle one, not something to rely on. But he can do it himself, and if others can get in, that's even better. Dire Fleet Daredevil, first strike, and you can exile target instant or sorcery card from opponent's graveyard and play it. Fiend of Shadows, whenever it deals combat damage, they exile a card from their hand. So they get to pick, but you can play it. And it says play, which is nice. So they exile a land, you can play it. Good old Atali, I think everybody knows what that card does. But whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may cast any number of non-land cards without paying their mana cost. So if you can get them on the board and just have them swing out once, you're going to be paying 3 or 4. And remember, every time you cast one of those, especially not paying their mana cost, you're getting treasure generation. So that's a great way to kind of cheat the system all around. Gonti, Lord of Luxury. When he enters, you look at the top 4 cards of an opponent's library, exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of their library. You may look at and cast the exiled card and spend any mana as any color to cast it. So again, another way, that's an ETB, which is always good unless it gets countered, but you know, that's going to happen. Ragavan, get this guy out, dash him in for damage, get the top card of the library, get it out of there with breaches on board. You're going to get double that value. And he's going to give you treasure generation. So very expensive, very good card though. Hurl Through Hell. So you exile target creature until the end of the next turn. You may cast that card and spend any mana as you want to. So it removes any creature. You can remove your own if you want to. You can kind of save your own creature. You can also take their commander. Obviously, they probably put it in the command zone, so you probably wouldn't be able to get that. But take their best creature, get it off their board, and then you get to play it later. And then Dead Man's Chest is really good. So you enchant a creature an opponent controls, and when it dies, you exile cards equal to the power from the top of its owner's library. And you can cast spells among that as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though or any mana of type to cast that. So this is crazy good in Voltron. If you get a Voltron commander with this, there are 6/6, 8/8, 10/10, and it gets taken off the board. You get 10 cards, and you can play those as long as they're exiled and cast them and spend mana of any type, which is kind of nice. So we talked through all of the scenarios here. We have your basic support and ramp kind of right here. We have the treasure generation, which is kind of fun, as well as a simple win con. Steal your opponent's cards, play your cards, and then kind of get double value out of some cards so you can get some treasure generation, help reduce some of that cost. Hope this video was useful. Give me feedback on the quality of it, kind of what you guys think, and looking forward to the next one. Thanks.